Welcome to Millennium TV 24. You know what you're watching, the good looking news. And as always, I want to let you know what's going on right here in our city, New York City, that is. And let's get started. So, New York City is requiring COVID vaccine for all school staff with no testing alternative. New York City has announced that it will require all public school employees to be vaccinated against the coronavirus. Teachers and staff in the U.S.'s largest school district will not have COVID-19 testing as an alternate option. Department of Education staff will need to have at least one vaccine dose by September 27th, the city announced on Monday. Employees will not be able to submit weekly testing in lieu of getting vaccinated. School's Chancellor Misha Ross Porter said that the mandate is another layer of protection for our kids. The new mandate applies to about 148,000 city workers and is a step up on New York City Mayor de Blasio's efforts to push residents to get inoculated. Educators are the first city workers to be imposed with a full vaccine requirement, and the order will likely lead to similar mandates for other city workers. During a press conference, de Blasio said that he spoke with union leaders about the new rule and that he will begin talks with them to ensure it is implemented in a fair manner. Either way you slice it, though, this policy is moving forward and this mandate will be in place, de Blasio said. And in some more COVID news, questions raised after New York judges order vaccinations for defendants. Legal experts are divided over whether two New York judges overstepped their authority when they recently ordered two defendants to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Bronx County Judge Jeffrey Zimmerman ordered a defendant pleading guilty to multiple minor crimes to get vaccinated, while Manhattan Federal Judge Jed S. Rakoff ordered a woman seeking bail before trial to get vaccinated. Neither defendant objected. But legal experts also interviewed by the newspaper disagreed over whether the judges had the legal authority to make the orders. Zimmerman told the defendant, William Gregory, that getting vaccinated represented a form of rehabilitation, arguing that the crimes he had been accused of, including drug possession and shoplifting, demonstrated that he placed his own interests ahead of others. Wow. Rakoff made getting vaccinated a condition for the release of defendant Louisa Pimentel, who was accused of conspiracy to distribute fentanyl. He argued that it was his responsibility to determine if the person seeking release presented a danger to the community and said that the unvaccinated have an enhanced risk of infecting other innocent people and even potentially causing their deaths. Again, New York University School of Law Professor Stephen Gillers said that Rakoff most likely has a solid base for his order as long as Pimentel does not object to receiving the vaccine or on health or legitimate religious objections. Saying those aside, I think that this requirement fits within the broader category of the judge's responsibility for the safety of individuals or the public generally. However, Fordham University School of Law Professor Cheryl Bader said that the judge has a potential hole in the underlying logic, since the danger of spreading COVID-19 was not connected to the crime Pimentel was accused of. Exactly. But the notes that judges are given broad discretion when it comes to determining restrictions for people accused of crimes. New York Law School Professor Nadine Strossen, who is the former president of the American Civil Liberties Union, she told us that the restrictions imposed by judges can be reversed by the court, but a lawyer would have to show that the judge abused their authority. She noted that Zimmerman's framing the order as part of the defendant's personal improvement made it seem to me like an abuse of discretion. But she also added that the judge has this guy in his power and he can impose whatever hobby horse is important to him. Fordham Law Professor Bruce Green disagreed, saying that he didn't think the judge's orders was an incredible intrusion into someone's bodily integrity. That it's actually doing the defendant a favor because it's keeping them safe, and it's doing the community a favor by making sure this person's less likely to transmit the virus. But that's what's going on in that news. And what's going on with Cuomo? Cuomo, who served as governor for a decade, resigned on August 10th after New York State Attorney General Letitia James concluded that a months-long investigation found that he had harassed nearly a dozen colleagues. He has denied any wrongdoing. Cuomo announced earlier in August that he was resigning amid allegations that he had sexually harassed nearly a dozen colleagues and accepted full responsibility for his actions while characterizing the accusations as false. The 63-year-old Cuomo was a year from completing his decade-long 3 terms as governor when allegations began surfacing that he had covered up COVID deaths in the nursing homes as fatalities that occurred in intensive care units. It is not clear whether his resignation will absolve Cuomo from criminal investigations that New York police were already pursuing in relation to the harassment allegations against him. But on stepping down, Cuomo named New York State Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul as his replacement. And let's see, what else do we have going on in New York? Outgoing New York Governor Cuomo delivers a farewell address, but that's what just happened. So today was his last day, and we'll see what's going on with that. But 5 Bronx men were busted for crack operation in Times Square. 5 Bronx men were arrested last week for crack distribution in Times Square and faced life in prison. Johnny Perez, 32, Aaron Starks, 36, David Meow, 32, Freyon Young, 34, Robert Mason, 39, and Donnell Bruns, 42. All of the Bronx were each charged on August 10th with 1 count of conspiracy to distribute and possess with intent to distribute 280 grams and more of mixtures and substances containing a detectable amount of crack cocaine. As alleged, the defendants operated a veritable 24-hour open-air bazaar for the sale of crack cocaine in Times Square, said Manhattan U.S. Attorney Audrey Strauss. We recall the bad old days of a much seedier Times Square that was unwelcoming, and we are committed to working with our law enforcement partners to ensure that those days remain just a memory. And according to the investigation between December 2019 and August 2021, the defendants sold crack cocaine nearly around the clock in the vicinity of 43rd Street and 8th Avenue in Manhattan, near Times Square. 1 shift arrived in the late morning and made sales through the late afternoon. And then the other defendants arrived and sold throughout the evening and the nighttime. Although there was no set composition of the defendants for the 2 shifts, Starks, who was often present and overseeing the first shift, and Perez was often present and overseeing the second shift. An undercover law enforcement officer purchased quantities of crack cocaine from the defendants on dozens of occasions, including multiple purchases from each defendant. Surveillance also showed that nearly continuous sales from the late morning through the nighttime and shift changes. In addition, surveillance videos showed that the defendants conducting hundreds of hand-to-hand sales of crack cocaine. For example, during a period of 11 days in March and April 2021, the defendants conducted more than 650 hand-to-hand sales. And in January 2020, law enforcement officers arrested Starks in the Times Square area and seized from him approximately 312 capsules of crack cocaine and 52 twists of crack cocaine. So what happens next? What happens next in New York City is very, very interesting. Yesterday in Harlem, there were some guys who was mediating an attack that was going on, just some potential violence that was about to happen, and we're going to have him actually as a guest. His name is Hassan Mayfield. But look at this story, right? Have you heard about the hammer guy that I had also reported yesterday? So here's what's going on. The cops bust the suspect in a random hammer attack while processing him for other crime. Cops busted the maniac who allegedly bashed a strap hanger over the head with a hammer over the weekend, causing the bleeding victim to fall into the subway tracks. Jamar Newton, 41 of Brooklyn, was arrested late Sunday, a day after the cops say he attacked the 44-year-old stranger at the Union Square station, accusing him of looking at him the wrong way. "Don't look at me," Newton barked at the victim, who was waiting on the NR line platform at the Union Square station around 9 p.m. And that was Saturday. "And if you come any closer, I'm gonna hit you," he allegedly snarled. As the victim walked away, the attacker went to a nearby bench and pulled a hammer out of a bag. He then struck the victim in the back of the head with the hammer, causing him to fall onto the train tracks. The victim was ultimately pulled to safety by Good Samaritans, but was also taken to Bellevue, where he needed 7 stitches to close his head wound. Newton was charged with assault, reckless endangerment, and criminal possession of a weapon, cops said. But he was previously busted also for chain snatching in Harlem, and as he was being processed, police connected him with the hammer attack. Again, we have a special guest coming on after this commercial break. My name is Kim Seabrook. You're watching the Good Looking News, and we'll be right back with Hassan Mayfield, who was actually there at the time when they caught the suspect. We'll be right back.
What does a Regis do? What does a Regis divorce, a Regis bankruptcy, and a Regis personal injury claim have in common? Regis lawyers. Lawyers who care. Convenient, affordable, respectful, and experienced. We work 100% for the 99%. Over 20 years, we've helped thousands throughout the Hudson Valley, New York City, and Long Island. For a free consultation with an experienced attorney, call or text us at 212-766-1100. Y sí, hablamos español.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
And welcome back to a Good Looking News on Millennium TV 24. And as I mentioned before the commercial break, the guy who was attacking people in the train station with the hammer was actually apprehended yesterday, while this gentleman right here, Hassan Mayfield, who is the founder of the Harlem Fund, F-U-N-D, Inc. And hey, Hassan, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, first I want to just thank you for everything that you do in the community prior to what we seen yesterday. I mean, I know that you're out there as far as helping people in the homeless aspect of life, just being a social justice advocate. You have also mentors you're also a mentor for young teens. Am I correct, right?
Yes, sure are. That's what we do on the whole gang of things, making sure we can hold down our community.
Absolutely. So give us a little background on the Harlem Fund again. And F-U-N-D is an acronym for Families United and Not Divided. So give us some background on that before we get into yesterday's thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the Harlem Fund is a collective community-based organization that came together back in 2016. Right? Me being a returning citizen, I came home, I got released from prison in 2012, and from 2012 up until 2015-16, I actually was doing community work on my own, just the normal, making sure the kids were good in the community, having cookouts, giving kids who needed assistance, back to school program items and stuff like that. And so in 2016, I wanted to do something bigger. I wanted to touch other neighborhoods inside the Harlem community, other than just my own neighborhood. And so I reached out to a couple of people who were entrepreneurs, they were local community leaders, and they was willing to come together. And so for Turkey Day, Thanksgiving, we all decided to do something big other than what I was doing on my own. I was actually giving away turkey on my own at the State Building, and when I linked with a gentleman by the name of Rajab Curtis, he's a guy from my childhood, real long childhood friend. And he was like, okay, let's do it. And so when he had an extensive contact list, and he reached out to all the people that he knew. They all was willing to come together. They liked what we was talking about. And from there, we did the Thanksgiving event, our second Thanksgiving event, and it turned out really, really big. It was a lot of people came together, showed some real big love, and that way, I said, you know what, let's make this an organization so we can continue to do it and add on to the work. Not just doing charitable endeavors, but also looking out for the neighborhood youth in a way of building workshops and programs that can help them progress inside the community. And so that's how the Harlem Fund was started.
Nice, nice. Yeah, because it's important, like, you know, a lot of people just focus on the holidays, but there's all these other days throughout the rest of the year that families still need help eating, kids still need help mentoring, dealing with school and all these other peer pressures and things that's going on in our community. So thank you so much for everything that you do. But let's talk about last night. You were out there in the rain. And is this your first attempt as, well, no, obviously not, because this is what you do. Your violence interrupter also is part of what your organization does. Talk about yesterday. What happened?
Well, so I'm, like you said, as a violence interrupter, we hold a title that they call credible messenger. The credible messenger is basically someone who have the heart, the training, the passion for helping those inside the community stay on the right track and
your camera's off. I can't see you. What happened? There we go.
I'm here?
Uh-huh.
All
right.
So yeah, that's what a credible messenger does. We do our best to keep the young people and returning citizens on the right track so they don't revert back to criminality or get in trouble with the law from the beginning. And one of the things that I do as a credible messenger is also violence interruption. So I canvass the neighborhood in my area, the area of Harlem, making sure everything is cool with guys in the hood, women in the hood. They're not getting into any problems, any violence that's happening. We're doing our best to alleviate that and mediate that. So I'm doing my normal canvas work. I'm on 125th Street, and I see some young men. They started accosting this guy. And so, as usual, I jump out. What's going on? Everything is all right. How can I help you? But the guys, they were highly agitated, and they basically was young, probably between the ages of 18 to like 23 years old, and they weren't trying to hear nothing. They moms just...
They definitely were not trying to hear nothing at all.
They wasn't trying to hear nothing. And so, you know, that's common for me, so I know how to handle those situations. What was hindering me was the fact that I had the phone in my hand. Normally, most of the time, I don't show that type of work because you're really live in real time dealing with issues where someone can get hurt or possibly killed. And so I got to keep my focus. Sometimes if I'm riding around, I can show, you know, a little bit of what we do. So this was one of the occasions that I had my phone and I was showing. And the guy, we was able to witness the young men, they were not trying to hear anything, and they was approaching the guy. I was doing my best to keep space between them, and come to find out, these guys were supposedly a part of a street organization, a gang. The other guy was part of a street organization, supposedly a gang, and we do that work as well. The police came. When the police arrived, I was telling the police, like, you know, this is a situation with young guys. It's a gang-related situation, and so, you know, it's kind of under wraps. We need the police to help make sure things is good. But the guy took off, the guy started chasing behind him, the police started chasing him, I'm chasing behind the police, and I'm like, listen, over all things, there's no guns involved.
Right.
Because we know how serious those type of situations are.
Thank you for that, yes, yes.
Right, and we didn't want that, we didn't need that. And so the police, they were doing a good job in a way of keeping a level head, you know. It was a heightened situation, but I have to commend them that they kept a level head. And So when they apprehended and detained the guy, it comes to find out, a plot twist, that the guy who to be the victim, he actually was a perpetrator that was wanted by NYPD for a lot of crimes that he was committing with the hammer. So this guy who I just nicknamed Hammerman.
Right. Well, that's back in the day from our era. We know about the Hammerman. Yes. We got the new 2021 Hammerman, right.
Where unfortunately, this guy, he was committing crimes with the hammer, harming people in the subway system. He was robbing, supposedly, alleged. And so people was able to point him out while he was standing there. And when that happened, I was like, oh, wow. Because now we go from this guy just needing assistance because he was trying to escape from the young guy to this guy actually, in the minds of the community, he needs to be apprehended.
Exactly.
You know? And this is why, as a violence interrupter, as a credible messenger, we don't just automatically jump in a situation and take sides. It's simply about trying to figure out what's going on, how do we diffuse the situation,
right.
and, you know, mediate. There's no, oh, I see 3, 4, 5 guys jumping on somebody, so I'm going to automatically just defend the guy.
Right, right.
You don't know what the case. And so that's what took place, and thankfully, you know, people was able to recognize that this guy indeed was a perpetrator, supposedly, of other crimes, and the police detained him. Now, it just so happened that that was the case, and, you know, how they say it, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Exactly.
We was able to, you know, diffuse the situation from getting totally out of hand, that was possibly really violent, and also removing a character that is allegedly going around harming our community residents. So I think that it was a win-win in that aspect all around. So it was a good thing, and I'm glad that I was there to try to help that go as smoothly as possible.
No, absolutely. So unfortunately, I can't show the footage because I was unable to get it. We put this together last minute for Hassan to come out and speak with us today. So, but he was there in the middle of both of the 2 gangs, you know, with one guy and then the other group of guys. And Hassan is just there telling the young kids to calm down, calm down. As he said, they were not listening to him, you know, but also in the defense of protecting the other guy who happens to be the hammerman, because, you know, they're lying to the cops and saying he stole our chain and this, that, and the third, and that wasn't even the situation. And the young kid wanted him arrested, and it just so happened that he did get arrested, but not for what they were saying he was guilty of. It's just crazy. But I think if you were not there, honestly, that whole thing would have turned around differently. I'm so serious.
Yeah, it seems that way. And one thing that, you know, it's tough to make those determinations. In no shape, form, or fashion am I an officer of the law, nor am I a district attorney, nor a judge, nor a lawyer. So I couldn't determine who was really telling the truth or not. But one thing that I can only go by is what I'm seeing and what I'm told. And this is why when the young man was talking to the officer and he was saying he wanted the guy arrested for it because the guy stole a chain, I was baffled because, you know, it's other elements at play here. And one of them was that this young man and his buddies, they were, quote unquote, acting like gangbangers.
Right.
And so I'm like, hold on, why are you saying that you want the guy arrested when you was just taking, you know, taking the law in your own hands?
Exactly.
And then when he said that the guy allegedly took his chain, I'm saying when I first approached the guy, because I caught it on film, I caught it on video before I was able to go live on social media. But when I caught it on video, I asked the young man what happened, and he said the guy tried to front on his cousin. He didn't say anything about saying anything.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy tried to front on my cousin. He tried to fight him. He tried to pop off on him, so to speak. And so I was like, okay. The guy himself, Hammerman, said, yo, he said he's Crip, and that they Latin King, and they just trying to jump him. So I said, all right, y'all break this up, you know, so forth and so on. And then it turned out when the young man was saying to the police he wanted him arrested for a chain, and now I look in the Daily News, they saying that the guy had robbed him for a chain. I'm like, wow, this is how things can get
misconstrued, right? Because even part of the story mentioned the chain with the information that I had looked up too. But if we seen the video, if they're talking about yesterday's incident, it really had nothing at all to do with anybody's chain.
Right.
Exactly.
Because when you look, you see, not one time did they say, where's the chain at?
Right, right.
You didn't get any of that.
Right.
I
know. But how do you know, for someone who may want to do what you're doing, how do you, can somebody join your organization, and how do you train them to be calm in that situation? Because again, the way that you approached it was very professional, and I'm telling you, if you were not there, the situation totally would have went left and different. How do you, what's the situation with that?
Well, thank you, Kim. Well, as far as joining our organization, the Harlem Fund is a multifaceted organization. We do a lot of workshops and programs for the young people. We do charitable give back initiatives for those that's less fortunate in that aspect. And more importantly, what you saw yesterday was the violence interruption, the credible messenger work, in which we do mentorship and one-on-one engagement with the people inside our community, and try to lower the chances of people going to prison, going to jail, and getting into violent situations. So that type of work right there is very, very intense. It's very demanding. It's very dangerous. And we have a lot of people who are interested in that type of work. A lot of times they're returning citizens, guys such as myself, who, we did time upstate, women who did time upstate, and they want to give back to their community, and they have the heart to do it, the passion to do it. So one thing we can't misconstrue is that along with the passion, you also have to be trained. And so we have institutions where they go through training. We do the training ourselves as far as credible messenger work is concerned. And it takes a lot of, soft skills. This is a situation that we are talking about learning how to read situational issues, dealing with situational awareness, dealing with reading body language, dealing with understanding the scope of the gravity of the situation that you're in, and those type of things. You can be taught it, but you also have to have that instinct and, right, that nerve to be, like you said, to be calm under pressure and not consider breaking down.
Right.
And so,
and not reacting, because just like when the young kid was cursing at you for a moment, it was like nah, and then you was like, you kept it cool, because if someone else reacts the same way he reacts, then it's going to turn out to be a whole different situation.
Right. Then it blows up into something worse than what it possibly was.
Exactly.
And that has happened a lot. You'll be surprised that this credible messenger work a couple of years back, like half a decade ago or so, we've had a situation where a lot of these organizations that cater to this type of work, they take in people who want to do the work, have the passion to do the work, but aren't trained and haven't developed themselves yet as far as mentally.
Right.
Because it takes a certain mindset to do the work. And what we have found out is that those who are not vetted properly and trained and undergo that entire mindset redevelopment, they revert back to some of the habits that cause them to get in trouble.
Absolutely.
Because it's tough. Like you said, a person can get triggered and say, well, based on what you're talking to them, how you're talking to them, what you're saying, it's like, now I'm going to show you that it ain't even about this job, and then they jump into a whole different bag. And next thing you know, this guy who's supposed to be doing the work, he's getting arrested.
Right.
He's compromised the entire organization. It's really something that takes a lot of circumspection when you're talking about placing yourself in the line of fire and extending yourself in ways in which you could be harmed or you're taking on a lot of responsibility where others might be home.
Absolutely. So, unfortunately, you know, the time goes by fast when you're having a good engagement and conversation and having fun. But I do want to allow you to let the viewers know where they can find you, how they can donate to your services, how they can, if they want to be a mentee or anything, how can they be a part of the Harlem Fund?
Okay, great. So the Harlem Fund is all over social media. We have our website, harlemfund.org, so that's www.harlemfund, not the letter THE, not D at the front, just harlemfund.org. We have our website. You can go online there. We're on social media, on Instagram, the Harlem Fund, and on Facebook, the Harlem Fund Group. And when it comes to support, we always in need of support. We have yet to receive any official grant. We're working on some right now. Okay. So support is always welcome. You know, you can contact us through email at harlemfund@gmail.com. Also, you can contact us by the phone number 646-247-2165. And yeah, like I said, we don't have any grants at the moment. Everything's out of pocket, so we're fortunate to have some community members that recognize the work that we do, and they do what they can in the way of financial contribution. That's always acceptable, that's always welcome. And to become a member, simply just send me an email, right? Hit me on the social media and let me know you're interested, let me know what your resume is. That's not really important, but just to give me some insight on the things that you're doing and, you know, what your interests are. And then we'll set up a meeting, whether it's via email, whether it's via video, or even in person. And we can take it from there.
Sounds good. You heard it here on A Good Looking News on Millennium TV 24 with Hassan Mayfield of Harlem Fund. So make sure to reach out to him. You want to be a part of it. You want to donate because we need it out here. And don't forget, Hassan Mayfield, Harlem Fund. We appreciate you. Just stay on until I go into the commercial break, if you don't mind. We'll be right back on Millennium TV 24. You're watching The Good Looking News.
What does a Regis divorce, a Regis bankruptcy, and a Regis personal injury claim have in common? Regis lawyers. Lawyers who care. Convenient, affordable, respectful, and experienced. We work 100% for the 99%. Over 20 years, we've helped thousands throughout the Hudson Valley, New York City, and Long Island. For a free consultation with an experienced attorney, call or text us at 212-766-1100. Y sí, hablamos español.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome back to Millennium TV 24 on A Good Looking News. And again, we want to thank Hassan Mayfield of Harlem Fund Inc. for being here with us and actually doing all the incredible work that he's doing out here in our streets, in our communities. But what we have is an update for you on what's going on with Tennessee. If you missed my story yesterday, here's an update. The crew's search for missing in Tennessee deluge that killed 22. So the search crews worked through shattered homes and tangled debris on Monday, looking for about a dozen people still missing after record-breaking rain, which sent flood waters surging through rural Tennessee, killing at least 22 people. Saturday's flooding took out roads, cell phone towers, and telephone lines, leaving people uncertain about whether family and friends survived the unprecedented deluge. With rainfall that more than tripled forecast and shattered the state record for one-day rainfall. Emergency workers were searching door to door, said Christy Brown, who coordinated school health and safety supervisor with the Humphreys County Schools. Many of the missing live in the neighborhoods where the water actually rose the fastest, said Humphreys County Sheriff Chris Davis, who confirmed the 22 fatalities in his county and said 12 to 15 people remain missing. The names of the missing were on a board in the county's emergency center and listed on the City of Waverly Facebook page, which is being updated as people call in and report themselves safe. The Humphreys County Sheriff Office Facebook page is filled with people looking for missing friends and family. GoFundMe pages also ask for help for funeral expenses for the dead, including 7-month-old twins swept from their father's arms as they tried to escape. This is terrible. The death of the twins was confirmed by surviving family members. A foreman at country music star Loretta Lynn's ranch also died. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee toured this area, calling it devastating picture of loss and heartache. President Joe Biden offered condolences to the people of Tennessee and directed federal disaster officials to talk with the governor and offer assistance. We definitely send our prayers out to those families and missing. Hope that they can find them. Next, what we have in Virginia. Shane put Virginia on course to stronger tenant protections. New York needs to learn from this. Listen to this story. So when 4 people facing eviction arrived at a Virginia Beach courthouse in early August, they never had to stand before a judge. A process that for many can be stressful and humiliating. Instead, an attorney representing landlords told them that their housing woes were being resolved. Each tenant had either caught up on their rent or qualified for Virginia's $1 billion rental assistance program. For the most part, landlords and tenants are working together to get the rent paid. And that was said by the attorney, Michael Hips. And the scene contradicted the image of a state that up until a few years ago was considered a civic embarrassment for its staggering rate of evictions. 5 of Virginia's cities ranked in the national top 10, according to a 2018 report from the Eviction Lab at Princeton University. 3 years later, Virginia is offering stronger protections and assistance to tenants whose lives have been upended by the coronavirus pandemic. The state has even become a national leader in distributing federal rental assistance dollars, while evictions have fallen. It's thanks in part to the glaring spotlight of Princeton's data, which appeared in the New York Times. The unwanted publicity put lawmakers, housing advocates, and landlord groups on a path that began well before the virus spread. It was very embarrassing to be in the national news for something so terrible, said Delmarsha Price, who was a Democrat from the Newport News, which was ranked 4th nationally for evictions. Lawmakers ramped up attention on possible solutions. You hear that? Many of which came to fruition during the pandemic. For instance, the state is temporarily requiring landlords to give tenants 14 days instead of 5 to make payments on late rent before landlords can file for eviction. The extra time is crucial for people who are paid every 2 weeks, housing advocates say. Some lawmakers hope to make the provision permanent. Virginia also was one of the first states to create a statewide rent relief program using federal coronavirus relief money. And from January through May, Virginia distributed more dollars than any other state from the first round of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And again, that's according to U.S. Treasury figures. And by the end of June, Virginia ranked 2nd only to Texas. Good job, Virginia, and good job, Texas. And next we have the Oxycontin makers lawyer warns of long, expensive litigation. A lawyer at Purdue Pharma said Monday that judge needs to accept the Oxycontin makers' plan to settle thousands of lawsuits over the opioid epidemic or face years of decades of Hobbesian hell, which complicated litigation that would not result in fair payouts to abate the epidemic or pay individual victims. Marshall Hubner, a lawyer for Purdue, made his case during an ongoing video conference hearing to U.S. bankruptcy judge Robert Drain, who expects to rule this week on whether to accept the Stamford, Connecticut-based company's reorganization plan. State and local governments and individual victims who cast ballots on the plan support it overwhelmingly. But 9 states, the District of Columbia, the City of Seattle, and the U.S. bankruptcy trustee are fighting the plan because it would protect members of the Sackler family who own the company from future lawsuits over opioids. Hubner said that the allowing suits to go ahead against members of the wealthy family would be a fight that will be long, hard fought, uncertain, and incredibly expensive. And if some places won billions in judgments against family members, Hubner said, and that could leave nothing for the rest of the U.S. He also noted that suing Sackler families is complicated. The family is stretched across the world with some assets held in foreign trusts, and many family members have never been involved with Purdue. In exchange for the legal protections, family members will contribute a total of $4.5 billion in cash and control of charitable fund. They would give up ownership of Purdue, and the company would be reinformed into a new entity with its profits going into fight the epidemic and pay victims and their families. Most of those with their claims that are found valid are expected to receive $3,500 and $48,000. The company would also make public millions of internal documents, including communication with its lawyers. And the Sacklers will have to get out the opioid business in other countries eventually. Some parties in the cases also agreed Monday to changes in the details of the settlement. So while members of the Sackler would still be protected from lawsuits related to opioids, they would be allowed to face litigation over other Purdue products and actions. Also, contractors and advisors will no longer receive protections from certain civil claims over opioids, which have been linked to more than 500,000 deaths in the U.S. since 2000. And in Taliban, let's see what's going on overseas. Deadly gunfire at airport. Taliban insists on the U.S. pullout date. A firefight outside Kabul's international airport killed an Afghan soldier early Monday, highlighting the perils of evacuation efforts, even as the Taliban warned any attempt by U.S. troops to delay their withdrawal to give people more time to flee would provoke AV action. The shooting came as the Taliban moved to shore up their position and eliminate pockets of armed resistance to their lightning takeover earlier this month. The Taliban said they retook 3 districts north of the capital seized by opponents the day before and has surrounded Panjshir, which is the last province that remains out of their control. Afghanistan security forces collapsed in the face of the Taliban advance, despite 20 years of Western aid, training, and assistance. Tens of thousands of Afghans have sought to flee the country, fearing a return to the brutal rule that Taliban imposed the last time they ran Afghanistan. And there's the chaos in airport in Kabul. The Taliban blamed the chaotic evacuation on the U.S. military and says there's no need for Afghans to flee. They have pledged to bring peace and security after decades of war and say they won't seek revenge on those who worked with the U.S., NATO, and the toppled Afghan government. Addressing a conference of Muslim clerics, Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid urged them to push back against Western propaganda and about the Taliban said the U.S. was undermining their rule by sending planes and offering Afghans asylum. But Mohammed Khalid, another Taliban official, addressing the same gathering, struck a more ominous tone, saying history and Afghans will not forgive those who were trained in the U.S. and Europe and returned to kill their own people. He said foreign countries should not interfere in education, asking the clerics if they would tolerate a young girl sitting next to a boy at school. He also praised the role of suicide bombers in forcing the U.S. to withdraw. Ooh, and let's see what's going on next in Haiti. Haitian gang boss offers to help in the quake relief efforts. A gang leader is offered a truce as well as help for communities in southwestern Haiti that was shattered by an earthquake, raising a glimmer of hope for relief operations that have been disrupted by the looting of aid trucks and other disorder. It remains to be seen whether anything would come from Sunday's offer by Jimmy Cherizier, alias Barbecue. While he is a powerful crime boss, Cherizier is far from the only gang leader in Haiti, and widely spread social media reports of a supposed earlier gang truce have failed to prevent attacks on the expanding relief effort. The offer came as many Haitians returned to religious services in or outside damaged churches. sometimes, for the first time since the magnitude 7.2 quake hit August 14th. Haiti's Civil Protection Agency also raised list of confirmed dead to 2,207. Since the disaster, gangs have blocked roads, hijacked aid trucks, and stolen supplies, forcing relief workers to transport supplies by helicopters. In places, desperate crowds have scuffled over bags of food. And in a video posted on Facebook, Trevizia addressed the hardest hit parts of the Haiti's southwestern peninsula, saying, "We want to tell them that the G9 Revolutionary Forces and allies, all for one and one for all, sympathize with their pain and sorrows. The G9 Revolutionary Forces and allies will participate in the relief by bringing them help. We invite all compatriots to show solidarity with the victims by trying to share what little there is with them," he said. The increase in the death toll was the first since late Wednesday. The government had reported 2,189 fatalities. The government said Sunday that 344 people were still missing. 12,268 people were injured and nearly 53,000 houses were destroyed by the quake. And that is the good looking news today. You are watching Millennium TV 24. Make sure to download the apps on your iPhones and your Androids. Download it on your smart TVs, Roku TV, Apple TV, your Amazon Fire Stick, and just watch us. Kim Goodlook Seabrook, a good looking news, Millennium TV 24. Thank you so much.